Hello and welcome back to the PLURI course on EU policy and multilingual education. This course is part of the PLURI project, which is funded by the European Union. My name is Alicja Fajfer and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Eastern Finland. In this course, I present policy topics. In the next videos, my colleagues from Coop Culture will talk about the development of multilingual education. This course is meant for teachers and educators who want to learn more about managing linguistic diversity but are new to the topic. We've prepared for you a series of videos, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and feel free to contact us with whatever questions you may have. Also, a quick disclaimer, any opinions presented in these videos are our own. They do not necessarily reflect the views of the European Union or the European Education and Culture Executive Agency. Okay, let's begin. This is the second video in the policy series, and the topic for today is language discrimination. During the next several minutes, I'm going to answer the following questions. How does EU protect European languages? What is illegal discrimination? Why language discrimination happens? And how to set fair language requirements. We will also have a short homework at the end of this video. The European Union made a commitment to support the diversity of European cultural heritage, and protecting languages is part of that commitment. However, it's important to remember that it's the member states and regional authorities who are actually responsible for this protection. On the institutional level, the EU has 24 official languages. These are also the official languages of the member states. This means that citizens have the right to communicate with EU institutions in any of these languages. They can also read legal acts and their summaries, translated into these official languages. And finally, members of the European Parliament can use their country's language when addressing the Parliament, and interpreters will translate the message into the other languages. On the societal level, the Erasmus Plus program supports collaboration for the development of education in the EU. This program also supports language learning and encourages linguistic accessibility of resources. And last but not least, the European Union takes active interest in the vitality of indigenous linguistic minorities. Also, new linguistic minorities, such as migrant groups, are taken into account when developing education policy. Up next, let's get to know the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union. This is the foundation that prohibits discrimination. The Charter promotes human rights in the territory of the EU, and it entered into force in 2009. How does it work? The Charter applies when national authorities implement the EU law. This said, individual member states may have their own laws that prohibit illegal discrimination. It is always a good idea to know what laws guarantee human rights in the country where you live. And next, let's see what discrimination is. Discrimination means that one person is treated worse than others because of certain protected personal characteristics like age, gender, nationality, language, and the list goes on. There are different types of discrimination. Direct discrimination happens when someone gets worse service or no service at all because of who they are. While sometimes employers require something that is not relevant for the job. It is also illegal to instruct employees not to serve certain customers. Finally, harassment is a special type of discrimination that creates a hostile or intimidating situation and violates someone's dignity. However, not all discrimination is violent like that, and it can also be very subtle. Well, this said, you need to be aware that different treatment isn't always illegal even if it results in poor experience. For example, to enter certain businesses, you must be at least 18 years old, or to do certain jobs, you must demonstrate enough proficiency in a certain language. Well, these are indeed protected characteristics, but there are other laws that set these requirements motivated by public interest. It can't just be someone's opinion. So, what counts as language discrimination? It is unfair treatment based on one's native language, dialect, accent, and so on. And for example, certain job ads require the applicant to be a native speaker. From the point of view of anti-discrimination laws, this is a very problematic phrase. However, as I mentioned just a few seconds earlier, it is okay to list language requirements as long as they make sense for the job. Discrimination is unfair for a reason. When it comes to language, there is a lot of false beliefs about how we learn and what success means. A big misconception concerns the intelligence of people who are not fluent. While foreign language speakers may use simpler vocabulary, this has nothing to do with their level of intelligence. Another misconception concerns being hard to understand. The source of difficulty is not so much someone's accent or pronunciation, but its newness. You're simply not used to that way of speaking, and this is why you think that someone is hard to understand. And finally, native speakers have perfect language skills. Think about it. A first grader has conversation skills of an early intermediate learner, and yet the first grader is a native speaker. Our family and education background, as well as interests, shape the development of language skills. For example, people who read a lot know more words than those who don't read. To conclude, I want to add that it can be, of course, very hard to face your own beliefs, but it's important to be open and learn to distinguish these beliefs and facts. We're approaching the end of the video, and here comes the big question. Is it possible to eliminate language-based discrimination? One way to do it is to see through the misconceptions from the previous slide. Also, the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages can be useful beyond the language classroom. By the way, I'll say more about the framework in the next video. For now, it's enough to understand that the framework is a progressive scale of very specific language skills. Each level includes a description that illustrates what that user can do with language. These descriptions could be a great resource to set realistic requirements. Having specific requirements would also help people prepare for various situations at school or at work. I'll be back in the next video to present the framework in more detail. All right, this was an express introduction into the topic of language discrimination. Remember that language discrimination is prohibited in the EU. However, it is up to the member states to protect language rights in their territory. While discrimination is prohibited, different treatment is not always illegal. These conditions must be considered. Does it concern a protected characteristic? Is it reasonable? And is there additional legislation? Finally, the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages is a useful tool to set fair language expectations because it includes these very detailed descriptions of abilities. I hope you learned something useful from this video. To make sure that the information stays saved, I encourage you to reflect on what you've learned. You can do any or both tasks. Task 1. Browse an online job board and look for ads that mention language skills. How are they phrased? Are these reasonable requirements? Task 2. Is there a law in your country that safeguards language rights? What is it and what does it say? I hope you enjoy doing this little homework and feel free to share your reflections with us in the comments under this video. Thank you very much for watching. Remember that we have more resources on our website, which you can get through by scanning the QR code or click the link down in the description. There will be one more video in the policy series, and there is also a whole new section on multilingual education. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again in the next videos. Bye!